been a long season for the Cleveland Browns. And when people look back on it, most of it will certainly be with some regret and being upset at how it went. But probably the first thing they'll all talk about was the Browns beating the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-19 on Thursday Night Football. Let's talk about it. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB, and the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Chef Floyd. I appreciate you all for making Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. Come on in, become an everydayer, stay, join the everyday crowd, subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. It was, and look, I'll preface this. I am a guy who wants the dome. I am a guy who wants all the good things that are going to go along with it. But you will, unfortunately, miss something that maybe happens once every 5 years, maybe once every decade. A tremendously special night out in the snow in Thursday Night Football for the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Game had excitement. It had a lore. I mean, thankfully, the weather turned the way it did. Got a little chillier. The winds coming off the lake, of course, and turned it into snow. Because if it had rained all night the way that snow came down, this would have been a god-awful football game. Enough of that. You had kind of everything. This is probably the most complete performance this team has had this entire season. There is no doubt about it. I think Jameis Winston is a big part of this team going into the future at the quarterback position. I'm not saying he is going to be a long-term starter here, but I think between the type of person he is, the personality he has, the teammate he has, and certainly some talent, he is certainly very much in the mix to at least be QB1 to start 2025. My guess would be you would add somebody second round, third round, certainly bring back DTR. We all know where the rest of that is going. But Jameis just has this engaging personality. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a Florida State fan. I have been a Florida State fan since as long as I can remember. I forget the bowl game. It was a Fiesta Bowl. Bobby Bowden's team gets the opening kickoff. Kickoff returner runs about 12 yards on a sharp right angle, stops and fires a lateral all the way across the field to the other kick returner who takes up for about 35 yards. I was blown away. And ever since. So certainly Dion, you name the guys. I've been there through that era. The Jameis era was very special as well. For Jameis, look, this is every guy who lost their gig and had to claw their way back dream. You know, the opportunity comes and you get it again and you get to go out there. And I think it was, 930 something yards to start last night. I think it was maybe the most that ever had been thrown by a Cleveland Brown through the first three starts. The touchdown run, whoever put together the edit with the video today of Jameis in slow motion while the Foo Fighters, My Hero, was jamming. That was great work, guys, by the way. That was fantastic. I think it was Ian Hartz. Sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correct, but dude, thank you. That was dope. Nick Chubb, you throw away what the stats kind of look like in a rivalry game like that. Ran hard, 2 touchdowns. The 2-point conversion. Of course, to David Njoku, big moment there. There's certainly some questionable stuff early in the game. I think the Steelers weren't going for it on fourth down enough. I think the Browns, in some senses, probably should have gone for it a little bit more, judging by a team that was 8-2 versus a team that was 2-8. But for the Browns, it obviously did work out. Jerry Jeudy. it's always interesting when you get, a weather-dominated game like you did last night. Whether it's rain, whether it is snow like it was last night. You don't know who's ready to actually play in it. You know what I'm saying? And it certainly, takes a lot of, patience, and you've got to be able to see through it. And you saw at times, you saw guys' faces, you saw how much snow was coming down. And who would have thought, that the kid from Deerfield Beach, Florida, was out there, like he grew up on a frozen lake in Minnesota, just like it was nothing to him. And Jerry Jeudy just continues to show well, continues to show that, he could be your de facto number one wide receiver going further. This was a reason I screened for 2 years to try to get him out of Denver. And it's obviously been a beautiful move for the Cleveland Browns. It's certainly worked well for both parties to this point. Cedric Tillman, let's hope, over the concussion quickly. Was looking good last night, but again, unfortunately, got to be careful. Always got to be careful when you're a tall guy, and he was upright and he got caught. I'm going to throw a little hat tip to Ken Carman here and his buddy, Blake the Anvil Whiteheart. Tremendous. That catch was hard on a perfect weather day. That catch was hard in practice with no contact. To make that reception in that situation on Thursday Night Football against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the snow was a great grab. Mad props to the offensive line. I believe it was the 7th different version of the Cleveland Browns offensive line this year in their 11th game last night. Jermaine Urfidi kind of held up well. I did tweet out early during the game. I could deal with insufficient play from the offensive line if it wasn't for the stupid penalties, but they certainly rebounded. Joel Bitonio, look, every time the Browns needed a pressure, needed a tough yard or two on the ground, they went behind 75. And, maybe for a lot of these guys, dinged up, injured, rehabbing their way through it, maybe now they're just hitting their best physical peak. It's probably a little too late, but again, another story for another day. Wyatt Teller with a really great game. TJ Watt engaged with Jack Conklin. Wyatt Teller looking for work and, basically just blasted his ass into Parma, Ohio. It was a really, really fun effort from this team last night. And again, it's been a tough year. And certainly games to play here for Cleveland. But this team went out here and showed that they are talented. And there's been issues, and your record is your record. But they found a way to shake all that nonsense and BS off of them in that Thursday night game. And even when they were down and it required one more drive, Jameis and the boys went to work, and Jameis and the boys got it done. Browns beat the Steelers Thursday Night Football. We're going to continue here. Best effort from the Cleveland Browns defense last night. Let's talk about some of the highlights from that. We'll continue. Appreciate everybody for being along for the ride. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. This month is all about gratitude. You need to thank the people who were there for you, the people who were important to you, my family, absolutely. The light that keeps me going every day. There's another person we don't get to thank enough, and that's ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we are trying our best to make sense of everything in this crazy world, and it's not easy. And here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, including yourself. Maybe be better to yourself. If you think you need work, you probably do. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/locked on. The Cavs were extraordinary up until this point. They're really fun to watch, and you look around the crowd and you're starting to see familiar faces, other athletes in the Cleveland area. Well, you should get in on this action, and the way you should use to get in is Game Time Picks. The Game Time Picks feature makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. Game Time Picks, the curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. They have the lowest price guarantee at Game Time, and they will credit you 100% of the difference if you find a better deal somewhere else. You are covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry with the Game Time ticket coverage. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Your host, Jeff Floyd. We appreciate all of you. Make the show your first listen. Become an everydayer. Stick around here. The shows will come up on your phone once you subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel, so you will not miss any of the action. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Browns win 24-19. Thursday night football against the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's just a beautiful, beautiful game to watch. Certainly, if you were on the winning side, of course. Make sure you check out the Locked On NFL podcast right afterwards. Tyler Rowan and, of course, Tony Wiggins. Defensively, and they were physical last night. They tackled better last night. There were hats to the football last night. Myles Garrett, and I think, I really enjoyed Myles Garrett, certainly his play during the game, and certainly the things he had to say afterwards. Because Myles Garrett doesn't have a big brother who has a big famous name in NFL circles who can come out and speak about him and protect him and try to push him up. And Myles Garrett, and he's always been a real good guy about stuff like this. And to the point where he doesn't have to be. You want to know what? Somebody challenges and disrespects your accomplishments. You know what? You should be able to clap back a little bit. And you want to know what? Good for Myles Garrett for doing just that. You talk to almost anybody who covers this game, who covers this league. And I guarantee you, if you polled 200, more than 175 would tell you that Myles Garrett is the best pass rusher in the NFL today. TJ Watt, when you guys all bring up your stats, guess what that means? It means you are trying to find a way to disprove other people's belief of who the greater talent is. You were not nearly as talented as Myles Garrett. You're a great football player, but stop whining about it. You and your brother go take a seat and appreciate it. That's what you should do, and have some respect for somebody that plays the same position that you and your brother did. It's terrible what you all do. Now, the linebackers, again, the tackling. Juan Thornhill kind of set the tone early. It was a long Jaylen Warren run, and Juan Thornhill squared him up. Boom. Granted, it was a 13, 14-yard run, but squared him up. Juan Thornhill spoke after the game. Basically apologized to anybody that would listen. There was that play in New Orleans. I certainly talked about it. I know a lot of people talked about it. Juan Thornhill stood up like a man, apologized, and his play showed last night that he was remorseful. 4 sacks for the Cleveland Browns last night. 3 for Myles Garrett. Forced fumble. And, big shout out to Winston Reed, playing some reserve linebacker, kind of this team's fullback right now. This is how you stick around in the NFL. When they ask you, say, hey, can you do? Sure, coach, you got it. You're going to be a 52, 53 man on a roster. You better be willing to do more than just what the letters of a position next to your name say. So good for you, Winston Reed. Jordan Hicks, back with a vengeance. had a sack. I think he should have had 2 personally, but I guess they called the other one, they credit it as being ran out of bounds. Had a lick on Russell Wilson. And I'll give Russell Wilson some credit. On 3 days rest after playing the Baltimore Ravens, played pretty well, and he took a beating just 3 days after playing the Baltimore Ravens. The Browns hit him and hit him hard last night. So Russell Wilson, still a pro's pro, threw the deep ball. I think the stats are probably a little more skewed because you hit a couple of deep balls. The Steelers weren't doing really much else. The running of the ball from Pittsburgh, I mean, it was nothing to write home about. Don't get me wrong, only 3.5 yards a carry. So you saw the commitment from the Browns defense. Dalvin Tomlinson, are you kidding me? Probably his best game as a Cleveland Brown. And it's always difficult, certainly when you don't get the statistics. I think it was 10 pressures he had last night. And just a menace on the interior. And, you heard during the game, and you heard me talk for a couple of days that, Pittsburgh had a young and promising offensive line. Well, when we always talk about these things, when we talk about interior line play in the NFL, it's always about you're going against grown-ass men who are feeding their families. These guys are a different breed. Young guys, just not there yet, and that's all right. But you saw last night that the young guys were up against a guy in Dalvin Tomlinson who's done this really well for a while now. Dalvin Tomlinson was an absolute monster last night. Ellerson Smith, I'm not even sure if some of you know who he is. Right now, I guess he would be your 4th D end on this team. The body looks good. Had a tackle on Russell Wilson on a kind of like a boot keeper, fake option type of thing. Got him, kept him short of the sticks, was in the backfield, was, active. Ellerson Smith's a guy I want to see over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be a tough rotation to crack, but put together some tape. I thought Ellerson Smith looked pretty well, and it was a surprise. At first I remember, and you knew he was on a 50-man, but when you actually finally get to lay your eyes on somebody and you're looking at him, and I was just like, well, look at this guy. And it was, that is Ellerson Smith. So good for Ellerson Smith, certainly. Diabate, Devin Bush, along with Jordan Hicks. The linebackers for the Browns just continue to play well. It has been by far the strongest of this team thus far. I thought the corners played better. Greg Newsome riding George Pickens out of the back of the end zone. Jordan Pickens, good player. Just leave the crap at home, man. There's always something that you talk about with George Pickens that has nothing to actually do with playing the game. It's the nonsense that he gets involved in. Annoying. Great player. Annoying player to watch. No question about it. So the Browns, it was a much better. Maurice Hurst. There was the big 4th down early in the game, and everybody, Justin Fields. No, Maurice Hurst took his guy and threw him 3 yards back off the line of scrimmage, and Justin Fields didn't know what to do, so he just kept the ball and ran to the right. Didn't get the first down. Had a big tackle for loss later in the game. So Maurice Hurst rounding back into form. Again, maybe this is a team that's just getting right too late, but you got 6 games to go. And for all intents and purposes, if you believe everybody in media who's telling you Kevin Stefanski is safe and most likely Andrew Berry is safe, then go out there. I don't care. Normally, you know me. If you're not going to make the playoffs, I want the highest pick I can get in the draft. I don't care. Because I think this team gelling, this team playing better down the stretch will behoove them going into 2025. We're going to continue here, your latest Locked On Browns. You guys heard me talk about it the last couple of days, what these final 7 games look like for the Browns. Well, if they can continue what they did on Thursday Night Football, any one of these teams that thinks they've got one more win chalked up on their record for this season because they get to play the Browns, well, do exactly what the Pittsburgh Steelers did going into Thursday Night Football and see where that gets you. Your latest Locked On Browns continues with your host, Jeff Floyd. Appreciate y'all. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. I'm your host, Jeff Floyd. We appreciate you all for being along for the ride. Make sure that you continue to subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It is always free wherever it's your podcast. Make sure you check out the Locked On NFL shows as well immediately after this. Browns win 24-19 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And let's be honest, when that game went to 19-18, I think we were all in the same spot, right? It was kind of like when you pat your kid on the back, like, hey, man, you did the best you could. Wasn't sure the Browns had one more in them. And the thing is you couldn't really play for a field goal. That was the difficult part, right? I'm sorry, it was 19-16 at that point. You didn't have much faith in Hopkins, obviously, and you certainly didn't have any faith that he was going to hit a game-winning field goal at that point. But you kept going. You got it. You took care of business. You won the game. You've got your next game at Denver on Monday night. It was a possibility this game was going to be flexed. The Browns game against the Bengals has been flexed. I don't think this was a testament, on the Browns staying in that Monday night game. I think it was a testament to Denver Broncos and Bo Nix that they deserve the national spotlight. But this Cleveland Brown team, who showed up last night, they can play with the Denver Broncos. Just got to be consistent. Got to stick to it. Right after that is at Pittsburgh. Certainly going to be interesting because Pittsburgh's going to be a salty bunch probably that day. Then home for Kansas City. Yeah. Then at Cincinnati. Home for Miami. At Baltimore. All of a sudden, these games maybe look a little bit more winnable than they did probably just 24, 48 hours ago. And with all of the national media guys who were reporting, and gals, who were reporting that, Kevin Stefanski appears pretty clear-cut and safe for 2025. And look, I want to believe it. I would like to keep Coach Kevin Stefanski. And I'm not saying we don't believe these people who put out this information because they are the top in the game. We'll see. Still got 6 more to go, and we'll see what happens come the offseason. But I think, with all that being said, I think there were players in this locker room, because when Coach goes, there's players in the locker room where all of a sudden, you realize, well, Coach is my guy. Coach has been good to me. Who is the new coach, and where would I stand with the new coach? So I think with those things being reported, you had a bunch of guys that played a little looser last night. Confidence and loose and have some fun, which is really difficult to do when you're 2-8. But maybe when you get news that your head coach is not going anywhere regardless, it's one less thing you got to worry about, and you just go out and react and play the game that you played 13, 14, 15 years of your life. Again, maybe getting better and healthier as the season goes on, certainly getting exponentially better from a talent point at the quarterback position. You should make these last 6 weeks fun. And again, I don't care about the draft pick anymore, because I think this team playing well and being successful would do more for 2025 than having the number 3 overall pick, 2 overall pick, number 1 overall pick. Let's watch this Daniel Jones thing here over the next couple days. Daniel will go through waivers where he will not get claimed. A lot of people have brought up Daniel Jones as a possible connection to the Cleveland Browns for 2025, meaning they would think that they would have interest in him. Daniel Jones can go 1 of 2 routes here. He can go play for a crumb bum team, probably get a couple of starts, maybe build up some value that way, or he could really go to a playoff contender, be a backup, get to ride the wave, maybe get a chance to snare one of those, right? It will be interesting, because if the Browns would have intentions of maybe getting a good look at him for 2025, why not get a sneak peek now here in 2024? Something to watch over the next couple of days. Certainly something to watch. Now, I think the thing that's probably, and it's great that this was Thursday night, and it's great they don't play till Monday night. You guys all get to carry an 11-day high here, Browns fans, and you guys were electric there in the stadium last night. It was great. You guys with no shirts on, though, you're all nuts. I got to be honest with you, man. You guys are all crazy. I love it, but crazy nonetheless. So you want to be able to string this together and, come on out on Monday night in Denver and give a solid effort and show everybody that, this wasn't just, again, mirage. So great night, great effort by a lot of guys on this team. Jameis recovering the fumble down the field. That was really impressive. Quarterbacks don't normally follow a play like that, but that was really impressive on Jameis's part. Good for him. His interviews were fantastic. Him getting the entire post-game crew to just dive into the snow and do snow angels with him. That's what happens when you got a personality like Jameis Winston. And it's personalities like that reflect in leadership. And if you can get 5 people in their street clothes who are freezing their asses off to go jump in the snow and do snow angels, imagine what guys in pads and helmets are going to do for a guy with leadership ability like that. Great night for the Browns. Not sure it's going to change much of this season, but it'll certainly be the high point for Browns fans to talk about. We're going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to break down. I want to get in a little bit more about this news about Kevin Stefanski and sticking around. So I will see you guys tomorrow. I appreciate you all. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate you all for making the show your first listen every single day. Again, the everyday crowd is a bunch of filthy animals, but they're my filthy animals. Join us, become a filthy animal, subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.